Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there and welcome. Excuse me. I meant to do that before I said hello, welcome. Welcome to the day before, the day we've all been thinking would never come. Election Day, when this long national nightmare might be over. I say might because who the hell knows the way we seem to be doing elections these days in the great United States of America. Hi, I'm Lynn Cullen. It's November 5th, 2012, the 7,000th dreary day in recent memory. And tomorrow, indeed, America goes to the polls, although lots of Americans, millions upon millions, have already gone to the polls in states all over the country that, of course, are more progressive than the state we happen to reside in. Polling is open to allow people who maybe find a Tuesday, a weekday, work day, a very, very difficult time to find the time to cast a vote. I'm not sure how many states have early voting, but almost everybody I know in my family who live someplace else have already voted. They voted long ago. And these are not necessarily states that are more progressive than, supposedly, than Pennsylvania. So there is early voting next door in Ohio. We do know that. We know there's early voting in Florida, even though the early voting in both those states has been shamefully screwed up with intent by the Republican administrations that oversee the polling in those states, since states do oversee elections in their states. But everywhere, we might be one of the few states, really, that makes it as hard as possible to vote. And as you know, there was a great effort on the part of the Republicans in Harrisburg to make voting in Pennsylvania for this election more difficult than it ever has been with the voter ID law, which, thank heaven, was delayed, and we'll have to deal with that again. The Republicans, after losing tomorrow's election, will continue with these efforts to secure some advantage at the polls, because the people clearly seem to be going in the other direction. So efforts to simply depress voting, make voting difficult, scaring people from voting, anything, any ability to suppress a vote is what they're going to be up to. And it won't stop with tomorrow's election. My email is out, my usual email that you guys write me at, Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Please, if you want to talk to me today, Cullen Show, CULLENSHOW, Cullen Show at yahoo.com. Cullen Show at Yahoo to talk to me, because that one is up and running, and I'll be able to see your contributions to the program and be able to obviously share them with the audience. Well, the one story beside the election that is certainly on people's minds is this, and I do want to talk about it for a bit, although it's one of those things where you don't know what to say, is this horrific death of a 2-year-old child at the zoo. I was listening to local talk on the way back, and there are people get so calls to close the zoo down forever, calls to whatever, saying that a lot of piling on of the mother. Look, why is it that when tragedy happens, when horrific accidents happen, that those of us who, are bystanders at best, feel the need to, start throwing around accusations? We're all entitled, obviously, to our own reactions to this. I, admittedly, my first reaction once I heard about it, then looked for a little more information about it, was how could, and I'm sure I was not alone, how could this poor woman, why would she put her kid up like that on a railing? But even then I'm thinking, well, even if you did, how do you lose control of the child? I don't get it. And then once you think that, you think, well, it happened. However it happened, she made an error in judgment. She's going to, I don't know, suffer for the rest of her life. She's in Western Psychiatric. Yeah, who wouldn't be? She's lost her child. She will blame herself till her dying day. Who knows what impact this will have on her marriage? I mean, there are always in these things, there are so many more victims. And it's this family's tragedy. The other party is the zoo. Could the zoo have secured, why would there have been a place where someone making, it's almost as if what zoos need to do is not just protect us from potentially violent animals, but protect us from ourselves. Because people make stupid moves. Who doesn't? God knows I do. I do every day. I do twice a day, 3 times. Twice a day, that's a good day. I make stupid moves. And if an institution like the zoo were to have to try to figure out in the design of the zoo, okay, here we got it. Now, what stupid move could a person do that would put them or someone with them in jeopardy? And is there any way we can? At some point, you cannot safeguard everything from every possible thing that could happen. I'm sure all the investigations will happen. Who could have moved faster? What could have happened? I don't think it's known whether the child might have been already gone before the dogs attacked. And I hope that was the case. God, I hope that was the case. He may have died from the blunt force of the fall. That was an 11-foot fall. Oh, gosh. So anyway, if for any reason any of you had felt like a need to vent about this, I wanted to bring it up. But we will go back to probably more our usual fodder. As I said, there's very little that can be said, although God knows a lot will be. My heart goes out to this family. And my heart goes out to anyone who was there who witnessed it. This is the kind of thing that, will haunt people for the rest of their lives. believe even the responders, the personnel at the zoo. I mean, I feel for everybody who is in that very small circle of people for whom this is not something that they heard about, but something they in fact witnessed and had to the best of their abilities, deal with. So, horrific. Just horrific. Okay, again, a reminder that my email today is Cullen Show, Cullen Show, one word, at yahoo.com. And also the phone number remains the same. And if you're looking at me, you can see that number. If you're not, I'll give it to you now, 412-316-3381. So, I do this PBS show on Friday nights called 4802, which is the stupidest name of a show. What does that tell you, 4802? Does that tell you anything? What is that? It's an address. It's the address on Fifth Avenue where WQED is. Who the hell knows that? 4802. Well, whatever. 4802. It's on, before Washington Week in Review for all the political junkies who haven't had their fill Monday through Friday of yap, 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 yap. So there's 2 liberals, 2 Republicans, and Chris Moore is the extraordinarily adept and neutral host. I was just stuck. I actually couldn't talk. And my job is to go and talk when I'm there. I found myself Friday in a state of, well, I often realized a little voice in my head was saying, Lynn, your mouth is hanging open. And being aware that I was on television, I tried to close it. But then it would fall open again. And it was falling open because of what these Republicans were saying. Oh, my God. We've talked for years about how we live in different realities, in different universes. Geez, oh man, was that apparent. They actually think that Mitt Romney's going to win tomorrow. Now, I'm not saying I absolutely know that's not true, but I'm saying every rational reading of all accumulated data available to anyone to come up with a determination of maybe what might happen tomorrow would suggest rather overwhelmingly that Mitt Romney is not going to win tomorrow. In fact, there's all kinds of little things where some email was leaked from the Ryan camp suggesting things that he would be able to be doing after the loss. Newt Gingrich sent an email out to a bunch of people essentially saying, well, it's over. Here's what we do next. We got to start working on 2016. Oh, God. But here are these people. They're saying, yeah, he's going to win. He's going to win Pennsylvania by 3 or 4 points. Heather Heidelbaugh, county councilwoman, said that Romney would win in a landslide. And so you can see why I spent the whole time like, my mouth hanging open. We have a caller?
Hi, Lynn. It's Kristin.
Hi.
Hi. I'm sorry if I interrupted your train of thought. I'm on my way into work listening to Bruce Springsteen music and wearing my donkey shirt. And I just wanted to share with you guys the slogan I came up with for the sign I'm going to make for tomorrow.
Okay.
And it's use your brain, open your eyes, don't be fooled by Republican lies.
That's got a nice little lilt and ring to it. I thank you. One more time, Kristin. What is it?
Use your brain, open your eyes, don't be fooled by Republican lies.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good day.
You
and,
too.
Remember to vote tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. You don't have to remind me, but thank you. Bye. Bye. Now, where was I? Well, and also, I guess my mouth really was falling open when we were talking about the hurricane. And she said that global warming didn't exist. And that most scientists say it doesn't exist. And that it's blah, blah, blah. This is an intelligent woman. This is an intelligent woman. I talked to her. She's articulate, well-educated. She's a lawyer. As I said, she's a county council person. And she does not, and she believes that what most scientists say, that climate change is not. How did we get to this state? I guess we've talked about this before, but how in the name of God? So anyway, for anyone who happened to watch that show, I just want to apologize for the fact that I think barely 2 words were emitted from my mouth, because it's hard to talk when your chin is on your chest. Just absolutely took my, it's not easy to get me speechless, but speechless I was. We have another caller.
Hello, Lynn.
Hello.
I had a couple things I want to mention. The first thing, you'll probably disagree with me, but that debate, the first debate where you said Romney started getting into the game,
Yeah.
I don't believe that's what happened. I honestly, God, believe the people started watching and they said, hey, that's right, I got to vote. I want to get that black man out of office. And honest to God, I believe that's why he started going up again. And that's why I think it's so close, and it's kind of scary because you never know.
Okay.
People, and another thing I wanted to say about this climate change, I believe in it, but they found trees where they cut them down, and they look at the rings in there, and they could tell how hot the temperature in the Earth was back, and they're going back way. The Earth was hotter. I don't know, billion BC. I don't know. You know what I mean? So I don't understand that either.
Okay, well, forget the trees. They can drill. What they can do is drill into the ice. They can go down so that they get down to millions of years ago or something, and they can read the layers of ice as to what was in the air, what was going on. And so they can pretty much map out what weather has been like for a long, long time. And yes, there are naturally occurring, ice ages where things got really cold, and then things heated up, and that is a natural kind of phenomenon. But it is clear that pretty much since man came on the scene, that we have had from the first time that a caveman figured out how to make fire, we've been having an impact as all this stuff that we, in our, ingenious ways, have learned how to make our lives comfortable here on this earth. But you really see an uptick of man-made impact on atmosphere when the Industrial Revolution kicks in. That's
the
when
Republicans that have trouble with math anyway. Look at the Electoral College.
Well, yeah. So, no, it's definitely, despite what Heather said, the vast majority of scientists do not in any way doubt that this is something that's happening, that this is something that we've had a hand in, and that this is something we have got to deal with in whatever way we can. I mean, some people say in some respects it's too late, but there are things we can do to sort of stall it, push it back, stop doing the things that are feeding into it. And as we saw with this, with Sandy, the storm, we have to rethink how we live on the shore lines of continents if, in fact, the oceans are rising. Those shorelines are not going to be where they've been in our lifetimes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Well, he said that. I always like it when a call ends with, "You're right." You're right. Thank you. Goodbye. So anyway, I I did something I haven't done since I think George McGovern ran. May he rest in peace. I went out on Saturday and knocked on doors. I haven't done that since I was a kid. And it was an interesting experience. I found it most interesting in regard to how much these campaigns know about the electorate, down to the house, down to every house in town, down to who lives in every house in town, how they're registered to vote, how often every person in the house has voted, if they tend to be a constant voter or an occasional voter, their registration, their age. So before I would ring a doorbell or knock, I could look and I could see a bunch of information about this person. Now, part of me is reacting like, ooh, I don't like, you mean, they know, so somebody's got my name, my address, my age, my, registration. They know how, they watch how often I vote. And this is when you hear about the ground games of the campaigns. This is what I got a little peek at on Saturday when I was given my little packet and told where I was going and given directions on which, exactly where to go, what information I was trying to solicit. And the information I was trying to solicit was very simple. Are you voting? Planning on voting? What time are you planning on voting? Early morning, afternoon, or evening? Do you need any help getting to the polls? Would you by any chance like to volunteer on Election Day? Now, I was only knocking on doors of people who have voted for Democrats in the past, as far as they know. I mean, are Democratic leaning or Democratic registered. So these are their voters. This is what getting the vote out is about. And I was a little confused because there was one house, the first time this happened, I knocked on the door, and an older woman came to the door, and I expected to see a 22-year-old male, because that's what it said. And I said, is the 22-year-old male here? And she said, well, that's my son. He's not here. I said, well, do you know if he's planning on voting on Tuesday? And she said, he's planning on voting if he wants dinner Tuesday night. So I put that down as, okay, he's voting. He's voting. I said, but I don't have you live here too? And she said, yes, but her name wasn't on my list. And I later found out when I got back and turned in all my information that she wasn't on the list because she obviously votes regularly. The kid, doesn't. And so that's who's on the list. This kid at that address doesn't vote regularly. So it was fascinating to see. And then I turn all that information in. And then there are this whole bunch of people sitting in someone's dining room who are parsing that information, going to it. Those people, so if somebody said to me, I'm voting early in the morning, those people are going to get telephone calls in the afternoon. Have you voted? They literally, this ground game goes down to the solitary, a single voter. And I got to tell you, since Ohio, you got to bet there is not a person in Ohio who is not known to the Obama campaign there, who conceivably would vote. And if they got to break down the door and take her or him to the polls, I got a feeling they're going to do it. It was pretty impressive. The other thing that heartened me was I showed up at this guy's house, and he was organizing it along with his neighbor. So we went from these two houses are like working in tandem. These were, I'd say, relatively middle-aged kind of people. One was a person of some color. The other was a white person. And, man, they had a finely tuned machine. And when those of us who were volunteering came, they quickly gave us here's what you're going to do, and here's how you do it, and here's what we need, and here's what we want. But I looked around at my fellow volunteers. I knew about 2 or 3 of them from various places, one from my synagogue, one from my son went to school with her daughter, and it was like, oh, hi. So this was a sense of democracy that I simply loved, that these were just Americans of all kinds of, there were men, there were women, they were white, they were black, they were Asian, they were everything. And we're all in someone's living room getting our marching orders, and they deployed us, And I was deployed into Wilkinsburg. It took me a while to find. I could not find the little area I was supposed to be. I kept bumping into. I thought, where the hell is it? They gave me a map. They didn't, but I can't read maps very well. I finally found my blocks that I had to do, and we were told that most people won't open the door. And I thought, I know that because I don't. So it was interesting for me to be on the other side, because I can't tell you how many times the doorbell rings in my house and I hit the floor. I'm not. I don't want anyone. Shh. I remember once screaming at my kid, "Don't go to the door!" He was sort of little then. I do remember. He starts toddling toward the door. I said, "No, down, get down, don't go." It was election season. He said, "But Mommy, there's a man there." I said, "I don't care. Don't go to the door." So I waited. Finally, the man went away. And I gave it a little bit of more time, and I went to the door to see what had been left. And what had been left was some campaign literature and a note written on it. "Hi, Lynn. Sorry I missed you. Tom Murphy." That was the man, and he was running for mayor. I told him that later. I said, "I was in there, Tom." I said, "I just didn't." He said, "I know. Most people don't want to. It's true." So I was always so grateful when somebody did. God, was I grateful. Someone even asked me in because I was cold. "Thank you," I said. "Thank you." But I was impressed, and I was made to feel a little more relaxed. I just feel like, And then if somebody didn't answer their door, I slapped this on the door. And they said, when they were giving us these, they said, "I know it might seem intrusive to stick something on someone's door like this, but they're made out of stuff that they can peel them right off. They're not going to stick. But it just says that, commit to vote. If you're a first-time voter, or to confirm where or when you will vote, visit vote.barackobama.com and make a plan for when you'll vote. You don't need an ID to vote, it says. So it's a lot of information for people. It was impressive. And I was seeing this. This was at the, this was at the lowest, the trench warfare level that I was seeing. And boy, do I appreciate the Americans who take their citizenship seriously enough to involve themselves at that level. It was great. Excuse me. Richard writes regarding the zoo. As I walk through the zoo in my mind, I think there are other places throughout the zoo where this could happen. As I recall, there are some rope bridges where you can look down into the dens of animals. I am certain the zoo is taking corrective measures today. This reminds me of the incident where Michael Jackson dangled his child over a hotel balcony. You know what? I had that same thought when I first heard about this. I think we often do things without thinking, says Richard. or take risks that we don't consciously consider a risk at the moment we do them, of course. This is just a tremendous tragedy. It's a mistake with terrible consequences. I cannot imagine this woman's pain. No. We can't. We can't. Yeah, I had all the same reactions. Well, I'm sure they're going to go over the zoo with a fine-tooth comb now in any place where something like that could happen. But, it is not unusual to read about accidents at a zoo where some idiot will actually, someone going really as close as you could conceivably get, leaning over and maybe even taunting an animal, and somehow the animal gets a swipe and might pull them in. Or there have been cases where that kind of thing happens, or somebody actively jumps into an exhibit, some idiot. But I just feel for everybody. There's so many also really good people at that zoo, capable, competent, wonderful people. I know many of the workers there, Barbara Baker. This has to just be killing them, just killing them. Okay, let's get a break in here, guys, and I'll be back in just a bit.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Pittsburgh City Paper's Art Box Preview is available now. Pick up one today for Nego Gatto, the Capitol Steps, and Passion Pit. And don't forget to log on to pghcitypaper.com to vote for your favorite art box. Pittsburgh City Paper, available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania, and on the web at pghcitypaper.com, and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a range of pep talkers standing by. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org and find free classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education, brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay, here we are. So here's what I want to tell you. Turnout's everything. That's what I learned on Saturday. That's what we know. All the yapping, everything, all those damn ads, everything. None of it amounts to anything other than vote. Go vote. You've heard, I would think, of Nate Silver. He is this guy who has an extremely great track record of reading polls and then making assumptions about them, predictions about them. He has his own algorithm that he's made up that he feeds information in and comes out with stuff, and he's just got an apparently extraordinary record. The Republicans have been targeting him throughout the campaign because they don't like what he says the polling shows. And here's his most recent posting. He writes a column in the New York Times. Most people look at him as the guy, the go-to guy about reading a poll. Okay. With 1 day to go, Obama's probability of winning, that's all he's dealing with. He's crunching numbers. That's all he's doing. Obama's probability of winning has reached 86%. 86%. Now, I hesitate to say that because I think if some lazy Obama voters hear that, they'll say, well, I don't have to go stand in line. Yes, you do. You don't get to that number unless everybody does. Vote. The betting markets, In Trade, have you heard about that? And Betfair, these are These are places that actually money is riding. People are placing bets on the election. Now, these people don't give a damn whether it's the Republican or the Democrat. This is just a way to have a bet. So they are the probably, if you want the least biased source, then go look at what's happening on InTrade and Betfair, because those are people who have a lot of money riding on it. Both betting markets show the president maintaining a very strong lead. Not quite up as high as 86%, which is where Nate Silver has him. And he explains, I know you keep seeing these releases of polls that look good for Romney, these national polls that say it's tied, it's too close to call, it's too close to call. But guys, that doesn't matter. The difference between the national polls and anyone who's thinking clearly, including the betting markets, is that the national polls are focused on the popular vote. But anyone who ever took a civics class knows that the way the United States of America does this presidential election, whether it's a good idea or not, it's the way we do it. That the smart way to go, if you want to know who's going to win, is to focus on the state polls, not the national poll. It's not a popular vote. Ask Al Gore. He won that one. He wasn't the president. The one who won the right states to get beyond 270, that was George W. Bush, even though he lost the national poll. The national poll doesn't matter. So every time you say, it's neck and neck, it's neck and neck, if I hear that one more time, I'm going to scream. Lots of the battleground states are close to neck and neck, too. That is true. That's true. But then if you look at them all and take them, I am sorry, guys, it is really hard to come up with a Romney win. And what this Nate Silver does is he throws in every poll that's been done. He aggregates it all, crunches the numbers, and he's invariably come up with the right answer. I think I was listening to another pollster yesterday, Kohut, and he has correctly identified the winners in the last 2004, 2008. And also state polls he's been right on, and he's saying the same thing. This just looks like, Romney guys, this looks like Obama. And Nate Silver has never had a number that big, never. As a matter of fact, after the first debate fiasco, Nate Silver's probability of the president winning the election was 60%. Since that first debate, it's now at an all-time high of 86%. If that makes any of you feel any better, but geez, I just worry about that kind of thing depressing the polls. Now, the idea that the way America does elections is idiotic, and I actually do think it is. This electoral college thing is, I think, nuts. I would like to see it go. I think it should be a national poll, because then everybody is enfranchised. I mean, if you vote... So everybody who votes in their state, but whose candidate comes out on the losing tally in that state, then their vote doesn't count as to who's going to, because only it's the winner take all. To me, that is like insane. I felt that way when it cost Al Gore the presidency. And I must admit, I will still stand with my feeling that the Electoral College should go if, in fact, Mitt Romney were to win the popular vote tomorrow and yet not become the President of the United States. I don't get why we shouldn't have a true democracy when it comes to the highest position in the land. What do we have to go through this nonsense? And the last time I brought this up, as a matter of fact, it was on that show, 4802, I said what I have against it is the disenfranchisement. And the answer I was given is the answer I've always heard. Oh, somehow, if you do it that way, then all these states that have the largest populations will be the only place the candidates will go. You will never see a candidate in Wyoming. You will never see a candidate in North Dakota. You will never see a candidate in New Hampshire, Maine. You will only see candidates in California, New York, Florida, Texas, where the people are, where all the votes are. And if that's the argument, well, then here's my counter argument. Wait a minute. So now we got this other way of doing it, the Electoral College. And now it comes down to you only see candidates in 3 states, right? Ohio, Virginia, Florida. Pretty much. That's it. Every once in a while they throw in a Colorado, maybe Nevada. New York State ain't going to see either of these guys. Texas has never seen them. They don't stop anywhere in the... Why would they go to any state that is definitely red or definitely blue? Those are already assumed. So the election starts with half of the country, according to the campaigns, done deals. So the argument that somehow having just a popular vote would somehow make some Americans bystanders at the election. I got news for you guys. We have all been bystanders at this election. This seems to be the election for president of Ohio, does it not? It's nuts. Okay, so this election, the campaign pretty much came down to Florida, Ohio, and Virginia. Do you know that those 3 states, if you look at where the candidates have been during this campaign, 2/3 of all recent campaign appearances have been in those 3 states. That's it. That's it. Those 3 states hold 1/8 of the population of the country. So 7/8 of the people of America haven't laid eyes on a candidate because they don't live in Florida, Ohio, or Virginia. And I just ask you, is this any way to have an election? I don't think so. So now there's a sense that there are certain what are called spectator states. And those are the states that are known to go one way or the other. Spectator states are the solid South. Those go Republican. Spectator states are California, New York. Those go Democrat. The coasts tend to be Democrat. And then there are others, scattered around. So, those are spectator states. Guess what happens to voting turnout in spectator states? And you can see it happening in the last few elections. People don't bother voting. They don't bother voting. Why the hell should they? They know how their state's voting. So if you're a Democrat living in one of those red, everybody knows states, you don't vote. What's the impact of your not voting? Well, that means any senatorial candidate, any gubernatorial candidate, any congressional candidate, any mayoral candidate from your party doesn't have a chance. This impacts all the other candidates, all the way down the ladder. And if increasingly people living in the spectator states aren't voting anywhere near in the numbers that people are voting in the states that get all the attention, then the people who live in the states that get all the attention, like Ohio, have a hugely disproportionate power to elect the president. I don't want Ohioans electing the president. I want the people of the United States to elect the president. Now, if we have another one of these elections where somehow Romney gets the national vote and Obama wins re-election, that does not mean he is delegitimized any more than it meant George W. was. We have a system of rules. We go by the rules. But then we will have both parties having been stung by the Electoral College in the last 10 years, 12 years, whatever the hell it is. And I think that might actually finally get people talking about getting rid of this true anachronism that is the Electoral College. I should only hope. Okie doke. Remember, my regular email seems to be not recognizing my existence and not letting me in. So if you want to email me today, cullenshow@yahoo.com. That's the one I'm looking at. In a minute.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals. 2012 Best of Pittsburgh winners. This week, get discounts on the Carnegie Museum of Natural History. Pittsburgh Opera's Don Giovanni, Nakama, Dozen, and Piccolo Forno. bergbargains.com. Pittsburgh's e-commerce mall. bergbargains.com.
Winter has arrived and it's cold outside, so get to Little's for all your UGG needs. Little's has Uggs for men, women, and children to stay warm with shearling-lined boots, shoes, and slippers. And don't forget to get your hats, gloves, scarves, and more. All available at Little's Shoes. Bring the entire family to view one of the largest in-store UGG shops in the U.S. Little's Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store, 5850 Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Okay. I don't know if you've been following some of what's going on in Florida and Ohio. Again, the two states with Virginia that matter. As opposed to, and there's some sense that maybe Pennsylvania matters all of a sudden with Bill Clinton, even as I speak, over in Market Square. I doubt it. That, again, is if Republicans are reading the polls here with some seriously rose-colored glasses, and or if there is a legitimate impact on turnout in the Philadelphia area because of storm-related outages or whatever. But Florida has early voting. And have you seen any pictures of some of the lines that are forming outside polling places there? A lot of times these are, it's Florida. This is with snowbird territory. This is a bunch of old people. There was, in many instances, in Palm Beach County, people waited for up to 7 hours to vote. That's the way Florida. Do you remember Florida? I believe even movies have been made about Florida's way of handling voting. Looks like they haven't bothered to fix things. Actually, what they've done is, yes, fixed things. They've been at it again. They saw those people who voted early in the last few elections, and they noted those tended to be Democrats. So the Florida legislature did what any good red-blooded American legislature would do. It said, geez, we got to find some way to keep these Democrats from voting so much. So they reduced the number of early voting days. And they especially decided to drop Sunday. You know why? Before the election. You know why? Because on Sunday before the election, that was the biggie. First of all, people have the day off. It's easier to vote for people who work. But also, they couldn't help but notice that a lot of black people would go directly from their churches to their polling place. Are you guys hearing that music? Where's that coming from? Directly from their churches. Just a sec. I'll be right back. We're doing a show in here. Jesus Christ. You know, the thing that always amazes me is that all my life in radio, I assumed that radio studios were soundproof. No. Weren't you? Didn't you think so, Jess? Oh, well, that'll be soundproof. We won't be able to hear it. There's another studio right next to us, and they're playing, people play music loudly, and I don't think they heard me, by the way. Jeez. Okay. The music is very loud for Jess and me, bleeding through our non-soundproof doors. But, so they noticed that it was black people leaving their churches, going to vote, so they just said, okay, no voting on Sunday. Why am I laughing? I don't know. So here you have 7 hours, people waiting, old people waiting to vote. And the governor, the Republican governor, Governor Scott, he says, I'm not changing anything. I don't see a problem. You don't see a problem. How about having more voting places? How about this is insane. Somebody on Facebook asked
why she can't vote early in Pennsylvania.
Why she can't vote early in Pennsylvania. That's interesting because some woman in a parking lot in Wilkinsburg asked me that Saturday too. Here's my answer. Because you have the misfortune of living in the hapless Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where the legislators in Harrisburg make the rules about when and how we can vote. And in Harrisburg, they seem to think, like I guess the governor of Florida and other people, usually in Republican states, it's Republicans who have a history of not liking to make it easy for people to go to the polls. They've done it forever because the more people's votes they depress, the better their chances are always of winning. Because you know why? The people, especially the little people, the poorer people, the minority people, the elderly people, students, they tend to vote Democrat. So, and this is why anyone anymore who splits their vote and votes for any Republicans on a state level, if you want to see changes, you want to see things open up a little bit, we've got to get Harrisburg back in the hands of the Democratic Party. And that doesn't just mean a governor. That means the legislature. I was saying earlier that we're one of the most backward states in this regard. So it is really an outrage that there are people standing in all kinds of weather, in lines stretching far as the eye can see, to cast a vote when it doesn't have to be that hard. It'd be one thing if they were standing in those long, long lines in all kinds of weather because of some kind of natural disaster, which in fact we have seen. Or if because there was some kind of breakdown in machinery. But that is not the case of those lines in Florida. The only thing that is creating those lines in Florida is the determination of the Republicans in control of that state to keep people, to discourage people from voting. And if you think having to wait even 1 hour doesn't discourage a whole bunch of people, huh? How about waiting 2 hours? How many you got left in that line? That anybody is left after 7 hours is unbelievable. The Republicans are shameless when it comes to this. We saw what Florida did 4 years ago and 4 years before that. We saw what Ohio did 4 years ago and 4 years before that. And what has happened since? Nothing. By allowing this un-American activity, this ugliness, to continue year after year, election after election, we are part and parcel of the subversion of our own democracy. And I'm not overstating that. How dare we in any way stand before the nations of the world and say, we are the exemplars of democracy. We think we are, don't we? America is the exemplar of democracy. Oh, yeah. We're becoming increasingly like a banana republic when it comes to our electoral system. And every time we get a debacle, like Bush Gore, a debacle like who knows, Romney Obama, who knows, a debacle like Florida again, Ohio, the attempt here with voter ID. Well, and then we don't do anything about it. There's no will. The people go on. So in many ways, it's our fault. It's our fault. The unsexiest issues like, public campaign financing. For 30 years, I've been doing this kind of a show. I've stopped talking about it because no one ever wants to talk about it. It's not a sexy topic. It goes nowhere. So continue with more of the same. Caller, go ahead, please.
Yes, Lynn. George and Moon.
Hi, George.
How you doing?
Fine.
Good. I listen to everything you say. I agree 100%. But I want to make a recommendation for your listening, streaming folks. I've been a supporter of third parties as a long-range refreshment of the political process from the two that have it locked in. And I would recommend folks tune in tonight on streaming debate between the Green Party, Jill Stein, and Libertarian Party, Gary Johnson. Not that they have a chance in hell, but it might be refreshing to clear the cobwebs out of your mind that there are other people out there with other points of view, and they may just be as extreme left and right in this case as the two main ones, the Republican and Democrat. But I think it might be worthwhile. It's on at 9 o'clock to 10:30, and you can get it on freeandequal.org, or you can get it on YouTube and just look up Third Party Debate.
Okay.
And I think you'd be surprised that they have some notable people doing the questions, like Tom Hartman and some other journalists and writers and everything, award-winning journalists, Matt Welsh, and a few others. And I think it'd just be good to clear the cobwebs out of our head of just the two parties and inject a little competition that Americans like to think is refreshing for everything but politics.
Okay. Thank you very much, George.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, bye. And this from Chuck. Lynn, I've got a real problem with this media assault from the Romney campaign over the past week. I just pretty much turn my TV and radio off all weekend. Or I'm well acquainted with the mute button. Besides the fact that it seems like every other commercial is a Romney commercial, there seems to be very few Obama ads to counter this media blitz. I hope Obama doesn't regret not launching a counter media blitz here in Pennsylvania. But sheer numbers of ads aside, the content that the Romney campaign presents in these ads is nothing but horse poop. Innuendo, lies, misleading statements, you name it. They should be ashamed of themselves. That's from Chuck. Well, Chuck, as I've said many a time, and I believe I said just moments ago, one of the adjectives for Republicans, being Republicans, doing what they do, is shameless. They are not ever ashamed of themselves. If it works, no matter how ugly, they're doing it. There is power to be had, and one gets it by any means necessary. The ads and the lies and the innuendo. I've been talking about the attempt to disenfranchise or discourage people from voting. That, to me, is the absolute most shameless thing you can do. The most shameless. And then saying, voter fraud, Democrats are stealing the election. When, as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only incidents of voter fraud that have been uncovered in this election cycle have been from Republicans, Republican operatives, throwing out voter registration cards. Oh, we found these in the trash. This was in a dumpster. Voting twice. That happened in early voting in Nevada, a nice Republican woman. This kind of thing. They'd like to say, they make up this big issue for which then we have to have voter ID, which will depress the voter turnout. And in fact, there is no evidence, which they agree, no evidence could they show in Pennsylvania of fraud. And yet, when you do get evidence, guess who's screwing with the elections fraudulently? Republicans. Again, the word for today, shameless. All right, guys. Whew. We are just 9 hours away. Is that true? Oh, no, I'm thinking it's 11 at night. We are just 12. I don't do it. We're less than 20 hours away. Vote. Get everybody you can out. Vote. Do what you can do. Okay? Thanks. Back tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.